Slabodsky.
Okay, so everybody here, I'd like to introduce you to Jason Slabodsky. Did I get it right?
Good
Hopefully
enough.
close. Okay. Jason is doing really crazy, amazing things with kids in his school in New York. And his name was shared with me by Brian Ford, who teaches computer science in Central York School District. Jason has participated in Samsung First Tomorrow, but I know his story goes well beyond that as well. So he's going to share his story around computer science and what his team of learners did last year. And hopefully you'll let us know what you're doing this year as well. Anybody that can see the chat, I did put a YouTube video in there that explains, and it has his kids, and it's pretty awesome if you want to look at that when we're done. So it's all you, Jason.
Hi, how's everybody doing out there?
We're doing good. I think we're muted so that we don't get a lot of feedback.
Okay, no problem.
Okay.
So my name is Jason Slabodsky, and I teach AP Computer Science here in Brooklyn. And I teach in Brooklyn, but what we do is we try to create apps and use computer science to do good for our local community. So this past year, me and a group of 8 of my students, we entered a contest for Samsung. It's called the Samsung Solve for Tomorrow contest. And it challenges you with a really simple question. And that question is, how can you use STEM to help your local community? So how can you use science, technology, engineering, math in order to help your local community? So here in Brooklyn, we actually have a hunger problem with our students. Now, first of all, the city's a very big place. We have 1.1 million students in the city of New York. And that's bigger than the entire population of Rhode Island. And I learned that 80% of my kids were receiving free or reduced lunch. So my class asked, what are they doing for dinner? And that is where we decided to put our computer science skills to work. And my students designed an app. And the app connected restaurants with hungry students. So restaurants donate meals to our app. And then we call those meals swag bags. And what happens is our students use our app to reserve those swag bags that they can pick up after school that they can eat for dinner. So we decided to tackle a huge issue like student hunger using STEAM and STEM. And my students learned how to use coding, data analytics, algorithmic thinking, and all the other great parts of computer science in order to do this.
So your problem was, and I know that we have some younger kids in here too, but if you put up 10 fingers for every 10 people in school, help me, 8 of them were hungry, right? So these are all the kids that you had to think about when they went home at night. Okay. Now, how did you get this idea? Because the idea itself isn't computer science, but you use computer science to feed all of those kids at dinner time.
So what we like to do in my school is that a lot of my students, they come from rough backgrounds. They come from lower income areas. Most of them don't even have 2 parents. They're lucky if they have 1 parent. So I asked my class, what is an issue that you guys face every single day? What is something that I could help you with? And I think if you start with that sort of basic question, you can find a problem that really hits home with your community. So really what we did was I threw the question out to my class, how can we use STEM to help our community? And immediately one of the kids was like, listen, I get a bag lunch to take home to eat for dinner. Have you ever seen it? I'm like, no, I don't know what you're talking about. And he shows me this bag lunch, and it's got a cheese sandwich in it with apple wedges. And I'm sitting here going, I can't believe this is what they give you guys for dinner. There's got to be something better. So my students came up with the idea, and from there, we just kept building on it.
Now, you started giving out swag bags or dinners with the school cafeteria. Is that correct?
So we first met with the school cafeteria, but The problem with our school cafeteria is, like I said before, it's such a big food operation. Believe it or not, New York City public schools food operations is the second biggest food operation in the country. The only one bigger is the US military. So when you're thinking of the amount of food that goes on here, they couldn't afford to actually give us the leftover food. They needed to reuse it the next day to sell to the kids. So that's when we said, you know what? We want good meals. We want meals that are nutritious. Let's go to the local community and let's see if they'll support us and donate. You know, it's not asking them to donate the newest food they have. It's food that might go bad in a few days, stuff that might be excess inventory, and then to use their culinary schools to just make them into awesome swag bags for the kids.
Okay. So let me understand this correctly. A child, and you use an app.
Yes.
Okay. So what happens is if I'm in school and I know that I'm not going to have any dinner tonight, I can enter my student ID number or my username into the app, and then the app lets the app determines whether or not I've been in school that day, because you got to go to school, right?
Of course, you need to show up to pick up your swag
Yep.
bag.
And then from there, I can see there's a map, and then what restaurants are near me or maybe on my way home that I can stop and pick up a swag bag.
Yes.
Okay. And how did you get restaurants to do this?
So what we did is you could see our orange Mosey's t-shirts that we have, and we actually go from restaurant to restaurant in our community, and we walk in and we actually go in there with all paperwork. We have a legal waiver that they sign, but we demonstrate the app for the restaurant owners. And we just tell them exactly what we just told you, that we have a big problem with student hunger. That computer science class developed this wonderful app. We like to tell them it's kind of like Uber for meals, because it really is. Like you said, when you open the app, you see a map, and then every location that's donating the swag bags shows up on the map. And what we do for the restaurants as an incentive is any restaurant that donates to Mosey, they get a Mosey decal, a big window decal to put in their window. And then the local community supports restaurants that support Mosey.
Okay.
And then what we also like to do is we have a chef challenge for the restaurants, and that is the kids take pictures of the meals, and whichever meals are the best or look the best, we actually give them free advertising through the Mosey network.
Okay, that's nice. So it's kind of like a ripple effect as far as kindness is concerned.
Yes, it was everybody wanted to help, which was really the greatest part of the whole thing. When you do a community-based project, you really want your community to be involved. Yep. So for us, it was great to get the local businesses involved. And when we went to the local businesses, they asked what else they can do to help. You know, we actually are going to start a winter drive for coats now, where instead of kids picking up meals, we're going to be actually tagging coats and winter coats on our app as well. So we actually start realizing that Mosey can be used for other things besides just delivering meals, but it really could be like a delivery system for social good.
Nice. And I do have a question for you, because if I remember correctly on the video, you were using Scratch.
Yes. Which
is drag and drop programming, which is what I use in my world because I work with little kids, and that's what I know. So did you program the whole thing in Scratch, or did you start there?
No, so what we did was we actually made an entire prototype using Scratch. So we designed the prototype that would show our school. We have a map, we would zoom in. And then as we kept going along with the project, we just wanted to make it real. It started as a contest, but the idea was so big that we wanted to do it whether we were in this contest or not. So a group of my students developed a website to handle all the reservations for the system. And then we actually used a program called HandyCode. And HandyCode works off of Blockly, which is similar to Scratch. And HandyCode was great because you could actually insert GPS functions and other functions like that, which you can't do in Scratch.
Okay.
So it was really cool, but the Scratch prototype, that's what won us the contest. We did everything on Scratch from scratch.
That is really impressive. That is really impressive. So we'll open it up to the audience in just a minute, but I was hoping that you could tell us, okay, if you were able to do this, I mean, wow, what's next? What are you doing this year?
So what is next? So what's next is this year I asked my students, what do you guys want to do for this year's contest? And at first, I really didn't want to enter. It's hard to win something twice in a row. So what we decided was I had a bunch of students talk to me about how crowded their apartments are in New York City. When you're a kid and you go home, you usually have 12 people living in your apartment. You really don't have any place to go. So what we did was, I have a lot of kids who suffer from different issues, whether it's bullying, it could be sexual abuse, it could be anything. So what we're doing this year is we're creating a VR app called Inner Space. So what you do is when you're not feeling very good or you're upset, you actually go to our app. And Inner Space is a great app because what it is a virtual chat room where you could talk to other kids that are going through the same issues that you're going through. So if you look behind me, we have our VR helmets and our mannequin heads.
Can you show us what that looks like? Can you?
Well, right now we're using VR gears.
Just
wave your hands if you've ever used a VR gear out there, right? Yay, we love VR gears. So what we're doing is actually we are going to create a virtual reality world, and it's basically going to be a safe space. So imagine it could be a beach, could be a forest, you could be sitting next to a stream or a river. And in there, my class is building virtual, we like to call them virtual huts. So basically in there, there'd be a hut that would say chat room. And when you go in there, you can chat with other kids who are suffering from the same bullying problem you may be suffering from. And when you enter the app, there's a mood meter. So basically, since we're in New York City, you come in and you're upset. And as you go and use our virtual world, you start to calm down. We actually have a virtual amusement park we put into it as a distraction. So we have a whole virtual world for kids to get away to. And the cool thing is we periodically ask you questions to see how your mood is. And the point is you go from upset to, straight-faced emoji to smiley emoji to Gucci, which is what the kids in New York City say. Gucci means you're all good.
Okay.
So that is our app for this year. We were a state finalist. And if anybody knows Unity program out there, Unity is the software you use to design virtual reality games. So my students are starting to learn how to code in VR.
Wow. And I'm guessing that what you're doing is way beyond what the curriculum requires kids in New York City to do.
Yeah, it's just we come up with these ideas, and I love it because it forces me then to go learn something new as well. So right now I'm learning Unity. I'm learning how to write script and code for VR. And then I come back and I teach my students. And it's really great because each student in this year's contest is going to create their own virtual safe space. So the actual space that you go into will be from that student's mind. And if you've never used VR, it's very, sharing your VR with somebody is really a special thing. So
that's really nice. And I like how you guys are problem finders. So it's one thing to solve a problem, but it's something else to actually find a problem and work to make that better.
Yeah, the thing I love about the contest from Samsung is it's community issues that face your community. So I'm sure Mr. Ford's project is really based on his community. And I love to say these examples. We were one of 3 schools that won the contest last year. The other school was from Nebraska. Nebraska developed a drone that flies over cornfields, and then when it's the weed, it flies down and it actually picks the weed out with the drone. And then the school from Arizona, Arizona has a huge problem where elk, I don't know if anyone knows what an elk is, but it's like a giant deer.
Yeah.
And these elk actually run into the road in Arizona, and they actually cause a lot of accidents. So the school actually created a sensor that went on top of light posts that would be able to detect when the elk were coming near the road to give people a warning.
Oh, wow. We could use that in Pennsylvania with deer.
See, we can use that here with deer too.
Yeah.
It was really creative though. What they did was they developed a way to 3D print these light sensors 80% quicker than they were already being produced. So the challenge of this contest is great because it really affects everyone's local community, and everyone's community faces such different issues, so that it really makes kids think. And, my students came up to me last year and said, whether or not we win this contest, man, we got a lot of kids to feed, so let's just do it.
That's pretty awesome that they're doing it just because. That's passion.
Yeah, and 80% of my class, they're part of the 80%. They don't know where their next meal is coming from, which is a huge motivating factor.
Yeah, that's pretty amazing. Now, I would like to ask anybody from the classes, if you have a question, you can unmute your mic and ask. Yep.
Hello. I know you can't see us, but we have a couple questions here. This is Brock. Go ahead.
Hi, Brock.
Hey, Brock.
How many restaurants are participating?
Well, when we did it the first time, we got 6 restaurants to sign up. And we actually were a little upset because we have 250 kids in my school to feed. So what we did was we actually contacted Samsung. And on December 22nd is going to be a Merry Mosey Christmas. And on that day, we're actually trying to get over 250 meals donated. And a lot of people are trying to help us out with this. So Samsung, we're going to meet with them next week, and Samsung is actually going to match donations with restaurants with $1 amount. So when we started this, our students said the same thing. If we could feed 10 kids, that's 10 kids that didn't have dinner that now have dinner. So we're building it up as we go along, Brock.
That's amazing. And one of the other students wanted to know, how long do you continue? How long are you planning on continuing this project? Will it be ongoing?
So the actual contest ended last June, and the kids who did the projects with me were all seniors, and they graduated. But it was such a huge impact for my school. We're a small school in Brooklyn. We only have 250 kids in my whole high school. So this was a really big deal for my school. So this year, all the kids wanted to do it. So I have a whole new crew of kids. I have 8 kids who are with me. And this is something that we really want to roll out to all of Brooklyn and all of New York City. We're just trying to prove our concept, and then it's all about scalability, which is something we know about. We could always scale it up, whether it's 100 meals, 1,000 meals, or 100,000 meals.
Thank you. I'm sorry. I forgot I had muted myself. That's really amazing.
Hi, Christian. How many years did you win?
So we won last year's contest, and that was actually the first year we ever entered. And also my students, they knew no coding when they started my class. And, we went from learning Scratch to being able to do this. So, if your teachers are telling you, learn your Scratch, Scratch is the perfect place to start coding.
When did you start creating this app?
So we started creating the app around last year, around this time. Sometimes I think back and it's only been a year. But we started and we worked on it as a group. And basically we just kept going. So yeah, we worked on it for about 6 or 7 months, from concept to design to actually, doing it, and then actually getting it to look good, and getting it to look right. Scratch is hard to make things move and look fluid and look nice. So it was a lot of work, a lot of graphic design work as well, if you're a Photoshopper.
Was it hard to create the app?
I don't want to say it was hard. It was challenging. And anytime my students would get frustrated, I would tell them that whatever problem we're facing, it's not bigger than the problem we're trying to solve. So, the issue of hunger is so big that we'll figure out how to get our repeat codes right and our broadcast signals right. It's just another challenge. And, if you're going to code, challenging is fun, having to do that.
How did you get help?
So how did we get help? So we actually went to a hunger organization called whyhunger.org here in New York City because we really wanted to learn more about nutrition and hunger. So from the technical side of it, we were pretty good with the computer science, but we really needed to research and learn a lot more about the topic of student hunger. And, that's where our data analytics came in and all of those things so that, we actually knew the problem very well and how we can attack that problem.
Is there math in the app?
Is there math in the app? Yes, there's a little bit of math, but if you know your basic algebra, you should be okay. We don't do anything too confusing, less than, greater than, equals to, and that's about it. If you know your decimals, you could do it.
How can other people help?
So anybody can help. Our main goal is to actually expand Mosey nationwide. And in order to do that, you would just need one teacher in your school who wanted to register to be our teacher representative. And that would be the person who then we would contact, and that person would become the Mosey rep for your community.
Do you plan on expanding the project to other states?
Yeah, we wanted to start in New York City, and my students are funny, like, why not just start with the biggest problem ever? So, we figure if we can actually do this here and be successful with it, that we could send it to other states. But unfortunately, it really is for urban areas. Really need urban areas to do it.
How do you connect to Samuelson to make this happen?
I'm sorry, can you say that one more time? I couldn't hear you.
How did you connect to Samuelson to make this happen?
So actually, my principal was the one who told me about the contest. He came from a school that had won the contest a couple years earlier, and he was the one that's like, hey, I got this contest that I think your class should enter. And I can't tell you, Samsung has been wonderful. The support that they give us, the publicity they give us. We were on Good Morning America. They made a 5-minute movie about us. It's really very humbling how much support Samsung has given us, even to today. Samsung, we're meeting with them next week, and they want to see what they can do to help us.
Are there any other questions?
Any other questions?
We have a question over here.
Yes.
Okay, step over. Go ahead, Karen.
What was your favorite part about this project?
My favorite part about this entire project was watching my students accomplish something that they never, ever would have tried to do on their own. Watching my students grow over the course of the year, like going from kids who are afraid to use Scratch and processing to them being able to create an app and to make that a real thing, and then to be able to put that in the real world, to be able to create something that can affect so many people in such a good way, that's the most rewarding part of this whole thing.
I think that you mentioned that I've heard something, and it looks like we have somebody else that has a question, but these are just kids. These are kids like you who are watching, right? And they're kids that really want to do something good. It's not that they are these computer science whizzes. They're kids.
Yeah, and that's a big thing is like, getting computer science into the hands of students who can then use it to help their situations that they're in is a very, very powerful thing. If anyone out there can take one thing away from what I'm saying, we don't need another Snapchat. I know we all love it. And we don't need another Facebook because we all love it. But, to come up with an idea that can really help people, that's the real challenging thing. And, that's really what you guys should be trying to concentrate on, when you develop and start to learn how to code.
Do you have time for one more? It looks like Mrs. Glover has one more kiddo. Okay.
How many people have helped so far?
That there have been so many people who have helped. I would love to say like 100 people have helped us, and I'd probably still be leaving somebody out. Anyone who hears about this just does anything they can do to help us. We've had everyone from celebrities to politicians to celebrity chefs, like all just want to be part of this. It's just a tremendous thing. And like I said, it's a very humbling experience to have all these people just want to help. And, just being the person who can give them a way to help makes me feel good.
Thank you very much, Jason. You are truly an inspiration, and we really appreciate you being here with us today. Thank you for giving up your time. We know that you volunteered to do this.